Well, hello, Clenton.
Hello, Nick. How are you?
Very well, thank you. The sun is shining here in Newcastle upon Tyne. It's a lovely day out there. So I think I've not been out in it for several hours, but it looks good.
Well, can you bring some of that sunshine to the Midlands?
Oh, not so sunny in the Midlands today.
It's not as sunny as I keep hearing other people talk about it. So I'm feeling left out.
Well, we had a bit of a storm, so it must have blown the sun in. So maybe it's coming your way. Hopefully it is.
Okay.
What have you been up to since we last spoke?
Since we last spoke, my mom's got her second vaccination jab, which is great, and also my mom's back out of hospital because from the last time she got rushed into hospital. Things look on the up, you know. I'm in definitely in a gooder place than with you know, the rule of 6, being able to gather, might be able to talk to more people than just on a Zoom call. I can speak to people close and personal.
Can taste those pints.
Yes, I can.
Talking about positive energy, we've just had a really lovely chat with Caroline Speirs, who's the outgoing head of TLAP.
Yeah, I just think Caroline embodies. Caroline reminds me all of the things that. Remember when we were talking to Sean Lockwood?
Yeah. And
Sean Lockwood and Caroline embody, and Donna Hall. Do you remember when we were talking to them? 3, I think, powerful women who share that compassion and, you know, fairness and kindness. It oozes out of them when they talk. And remember I mentioned about Umbutu, about I am because we are.
Yeah.
They embodied that. And that's what I think Caroline, when she talks about, you know, she oozes about compassion, co-production, you know, and making sure the voice of people with lived experience is front and centre, but not ignoring, you know, the partnership. And it's a partnership.
Yeah. And you've had a very close working relationship with Caroline in your capacity as the chair of TLAP over the last few years as well, haven't you?
Yeah, and it's just, you know, when people ask me about leadership, the first thing that comes to me is host leadership. She, you know, it's like, imagine having a party and you take on all those different roles around giving information to people, but making sure everyone feels part of the party and conversations and introducing people. Caroline takes on all of those elements and skills of leadership that most people wouldn't class as leadership. You know, humility, you know, integrity, compassion, kindness. It oozes out of her. For men, she's, I think, a great leader.
Brilliant. Well, let's hear from Caroline then. So without further ado, it's Caroline Speirs and her interview that she just did with Clenton and I. Hope you enjoy.
We're just going to have a conversation with Caroline to try and understand her, I think I've got this right, her 6-year stewardship of Think Local, Act Personal. And we want to try and find out who is Caroline Speirs. So welcome, Caroline.
Clenton, Nick, it's I think it's a pleasure to be here, but we'll see. I'll reserve judgment for now. Clenton, it may feel like 6 long years that I've been at the helm, but it's only been 4. I don't even know if it's been 4. I think it's 4 this summer. Oh my gosh, that's not a great start, is it? It just feels like 20 years.
Caroline, it's regardless of how long you've worked for TLAP, it's lovely to have you with us. And we have our quickfire questions first, and then we're going to get into our meaty questions, which will be a little bit more about your experience of working and leading TLAP over the last however many years you've done it. So the first question is from me. If you could only eat one dish or meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I hate these questions where you've got to focus on one thing. Do you know, I'll go with pasta.
Fine.
I'll go with pasta. Yep.
Tick, done. Pasta.
Well, interesting. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Caroline. My question is, and if you could only go to one more place on holiday for the rest of your life, where would that be?
You see, this is where it gets a bit political, Clenton, because my family are Irish, so most of them live in Ireland. Now, if I don't say Ireland, I'm in serious trouble. So I'm going to say that it's a draw for first place. It's Ireland and Barbados. Take from that what you will.
Okay. I'll take Barbados.
Fair enough. I might take it with you. Yeah.
Nick, over to you.
Caroline, how do you like to pass the time? Do you have any particular hobbies or interests you want to tell us about?
Oh, okay. So I like to, I do like to eat. I like to watch Netflix. Big fan of a boxed set. Seriously into a Line of Duty at the moment. Of course, that's not a box set, but more's the pity, really, because I could devour it in one setting. I love to go walking. I love traveling. I love doing yoga. I like to go for a run. And I like to do nothing as well. I like to just sit there and listen to the bird song and reflect. Usually with a glass of wine.
Okay.
I didn't mention drinking wine. I like to drink wine.
Caroline, I'd like to pick up on the point where you just said about Netflix and watching box sets. So what was the last TV show you watched that you really enjoyed?
I've got to think about this, Clenton, because I've watched a couple that have disappointed me. I'm not going to lie. So the one thing, because you know you've really enjoyed it because you feel bereft when you get to that last episode. So I did really enjoy. Is it Forgotten or Unforgotten? I always get the title wrong, and it finished last night, didn't it? And that was a very, very sad ending. A little bit angry about the ending, but I did really enjoy that. But in terms of a sort of a boxed set, I know there's one and I can't think of it. See, that's the other thing I love to do, the Scandi drama. And I don't think I've watched a Scandi drama in quite some time. Yeah, can I get back to you on that, Clenton?
Yeah, if something pops into your head.
If something pops into my head, that's a really good point, actually, because it's year end. The only thing popping into my head are invoices that I've got to make sure are paid over the next couple of days.
I feel your pain.
Well,
no, you don't.
That probably leads on to my question then, which was, what was the last book you read? But I suppose it's the TLAP books that you've been reading by the end of it. So apart from
the invoices.
Yeah, the invoices, the work program. The last book, well, I'm reading one at the moment. Does that count? I've not finished it. The Thursday Murder Club.
Accept it. The Thursday Murder Club.
Yeah, Richard. Is it Richard? You see, this is where I'm rubbish.
Richard Osman. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pointless. Yeah.
It's from Pointless. Yeah. A nice, easy read. It's a bit pointless, to be honest, but it's just good fun.
My question now, I think, is I always tell every person we interview, this is the real crux of the question.
This is the killer.
It's the £1 million question. What would you do in 12 months with £1 million?
What would I do in 12 months for £1 million? So this is why I've got to say I donate it to charity, isn't it? I've got to be so careful. And now my family are going to get angry because I haven't given it to them. You
Okay,
see
so
these questions, you don't
that's
know what you're
fine.
walking me into.
Let's forget about charity and family. That's a given.
Okay, lovely.
All right. So what would you do?
I think I would probably just go off traveling. I think I would just travel, spend as much time as possible traveling. I love it. And obviously I haven't been able to travel in a while.
Well, thanks very much, Caroline. You've survived the quickfire questions. So I hope that wasn't too painful. And now we'll get on to the meaty questions. I'm really interested in hearing about your time with Think Local at Personal. Could you tell us about what you see as kind of your key achievements or some of the things you're most proud of during your stewardship of TLAP over the last 4/6 years?
It's a tricky one to answer in terms of this being these being achievements under my stewardship. I have to say that, unless you've got a great team behind you and a great chair, of course, behind you, none of this is possible. But the things I'm really, really proud of, I think first and foremost, the fact that we've maintained funding, which it has been no mean feat. I think this has been a period of exceptional austerity, but somehow we've managed to hang on in there. And it has to be said, the Department of Health and Social Care have supported us over the last few years. And I'm hoping they continue to, because I've not had funding fully confirmed for next year, but I'm hoping that continues. So, I think that needs to be noted, because we know lots of organisations have lost funding over the years, but we're kind of all right. We're hanging on in there. But I suppose above and beyond that, I think what I'm really proud of is where TLAP seems to have arrived, and we seem to have arrived at a place where we have this good profile. I think we've got a really good reputation, as borne out by our recent evaluation. And I think people trust us. I think people really trust us, and that's quite a priceless commodity, actually. And if we look back over the years, there's no question really that we have seen personalisation regress over the last few years. Again, the argument has been it's because of austerity, and many places have felt it's either unaffordable or unobtainable, and we have real concerns about that as a partnership and certainly as a team. And I think we've really focused in on that over the last couple of years. Really wanted to make sure that that the argument that was being made that this was about money couldn't really be sustained, because personalisation is as much about attitude, I think, than money. As we do spend, even though funding is hideous. I mean, it goes without saying the amount of money that's been lost is genuinely unprecedented. Nonetheless, we still spend quite a lot of money on social care, so it can't just be about that. So there was something about people, it felt to us, retreating to a comfort zone, where they didn't have to do this thing called personalisation for whatever reason. And I think we've kind of held our own. I think we've kept it out there. We've kept it up there. And I think TLAP can take some credit for that. What else? I think we've played a critical role in ramping up co-production and making it clear that co-production is a key route to better social care. And certainly, again, over the last year, for sure, we've reached into the higher echelons of power. There's no question. We've got my NCAG colleagues are having conversations with the minister. We're having NCAG colleagues are being invited to join in panels with think tanks, and this was never happening. Clenton is doing something. I think it's fair to say several times a day at this stage. I mean, he's out there and he's up there, and so are some other NCAG colleagues. That wasn't happening 3 or 4 years ago, and I'm really, really proud of that. I think we have played a role in making that happen. I think something that I am really, really proud of, and this is in relation specifically to COVID and our experience over COVID, is the way TLAP has been able to make the voice of people who self-direct their own support loud and visible, because it was absolutely clear from a very early stage during the pandemic that there was nobody representing people who self-direct their own support. And by that I mean have a direct payment, perhaps are employing their own PA. it was clear that people didn't even understand what a PA was, other than in the secretarial sense. And we've played a huge role in making sure that that's out there now. And we've got this amazing group, this amazing self-directed support network that TLAP has developed. And one of my colleagues in particular has led on. And that's created all manner of opportunities. Personal assistants are now out there formally in guidance, in government guidance, as part of the as a key workers, as part of the health and social care workforce. Now, given that the starting point was they didn't exist, that's, we've travelled a long way in making sure that they're recognised. Now, there's still a long way to go, and certainly I don't think that national recognition has been translated locally. But it's happening. We're getting it out there, and I'm really, really proud of that. And Clenton will know as well the conversations we were involved in. There was some great representation from the trade bodies representing their particular part of the sector, like care homes and home care agencies. But there was nothing for people who self-directed their own support. And I think we played a critical role in elevating the status of people who are employing their own PAs and who are self-directing their own support.
Really interested, because wanted to go on with your answer. What other achievements and the biggest challenges that you faced during your 4/6 years?
My 46 years in TLAP. I think in terms of achievement, knowing that we're making a difference has been hugely reassuring on a number of levels, professional and personal levels. And that's been borne out by the recent evaluation. I mean, the response to that has been so marked, I think so positive. And I think it's given TLAP, and I mean, in terms of TLAP, I mean the partnership, I mean the team, I mean all bits of it. And there are many moving parts to TLAP. I think it's given it confidence to really move forward now, and to take so much pride in what it does, knowing that it does it well and it is making a difference. It's always very hard to show impact, and again, you'll know, Clenton, that we are often asked for measures of impact at our monitoring meetings, as I know lots of organisations are, and it's really, really hard because the stuff we're doing isn't easy to measure. So the evaluation has really supported what we do. I think the other thing I'm really pleased with is our response to the pandemic, and very quickly, and again, I know lots of organisations did this, refocusing our entire work programme to meet the needs of the pandemic. I think we turned that around so quickly. And I think the other thing I'm really pleased with and proud of is that TLAP's chair of our programme board is a person with lived experience. And that is something, I think, first of all, I think it's made a huge difference. There's no question that you have opened doors for TLAP, absolutely no question. And I would really like to see this model played out across other organisations now. And then the challenges. Well, where to begin, quite frankly. No, that's not true. I think in terms of challenges, again, we have been promised social care reform for how long is it now? We've certainly spent an awful lot of time over the last 3 or 4 years. Well, I think, was it 3 or 4 years ago, we were supporting a green paper, and we did shed loads of work around that and spoke to shed loads of people to try and make sure that we were informing and influencing a green paper. And of course, we're still not there yet. So that's been frustrating, hugely frustrating. Now, that said, let's be positive. I'm certainly getting the sense that we are now beginning to move forward with social care reform, and we need to see what that looks like, of course. But it does feel like we might be going in the right direction. I suppose I've mentioned this already, but I suppose a huge challenge for us was this idea that austerity has. I was going to use the past tense, but it's probably the present tense. That austerity has reduced social care to something that is much more about beds, units, time and task, life and limb. And that is, for those of us who see social care as something transformative and as something that, as we say, supports us to have a life and not a service. That is hugely frustrating. And, we still need to keep on banging the drum about that, because we know the difference it makes, because we see the difference it makes when it's happening because it is happening in places. What we want to see, though, is for it to be business as usual, not peripheral stuff, not marginal stuff. But I think that's been hugely frustrating. And, no doubt austerity again has contributed to that narrative. Yeah.
Thanks, Carolyn. That's brilliant, and just really helpful to get an understanding of that challenge. And so, I suppose with that in mind, where do you see TLAP heading now? What's the next challenge for TLAP as an organisation, and how is it going to meet that challenge that you described within that reflection?
So of course, I'm not going to be there, but I'll definitely be watching. What I'd like to see, not in a stalky way, that sounded a little bit sinister. What I would like to see is, and I absolutely believe this can happen, is the partnership to grow in strength and in influence. And I think on the back of that evaluation, it absolutely can, and it absolutely should. I think it needs to, and now we know that social care reform is happening. We have to get in there. The partnership has to make sure it influences this, so it isn't reduced to discussions about saving the family silver and not having to sell it off to pay for, somebody's care home placement. It has got to be much more than that. And I take inspiration from the Australian model. And the Australian model isn't perfect by any stretch, but certainly it's taken it a lot further than we seem to have managed so far. So I think it needs to coalesce around some key messages. I want to see it making its voice heard. Given how fragmented the social care system is, unlike the NHS, for example, there is such a significant role here for the TLAP partnership, because everybody's there. And it's not just that we convene providers and commissioners and people with lived experience, although that's what we do, of course. It's also about the different areas. So it's about social care, it's about NHS England, it's about Public Health England, it's about housing, it's about social enterprises. The depth and breadth is so rich that this is a partnership that really ought to be front and centre to social care reform moving forward. There's absolutely no question. I think the Care Act, the Care Act is a force for good. There's no question. We were all really excited about it. But, sadly, legislation in and of itself has never been enough, has it? It's, otherwise we wouldn't have half the problems we have, because there are lots of laws out there. So there is something now about really getting kind of bolder about making sure the Care Act is implemented or enforced, she said provocatively. So I think there's a lot. I think there's a huge amount for the partnership to do, and it can do it. And our Making It Real framework, I suppose, just to end on that, really, this is a huge asset, Making It Real. And I think we need to sweat it out a bit more with Making It Real. I would like to see much more done with it. There are lots of exciting things happening behind the scenes of Making It Real that I'm hoping, we'll be able to take forward. But I really think that's got to be front and centre to social care reform, because I don't think there's anything out there that's quite like it. There's certainly nothing out there that has been as co-produced as Making It Real. And when you've got something that is so widely co-produced, and I'm going to say over 80 let's say 80, I want to say 80 organisations were involved in the development of Making It Real. I hope I'm not making that up, and I don't think I am. And that, of course, included people with lived experience and unpaid carers. When you get something so co-produced, it has a legitimacy that far surpasses anything else out there.
Thank you very much for that, Caroline. And my question's directly to you, Caroline. What next for you, and what is your biggest hope for the future?
Oh, my word, Clenton. My biggest hope, well, I mean, it's obviously pandemic related, really. My biggest hope is that we get on top of this and we can, hug people again. I've got a 6-month-old granddaughter that I haven't kissed yet. And, I really want to kiss her. I really want to give her a big squeeze and hug. So I think that's the first thing. I want to see my mum get out again. She's 80. I want her to be able to go down the street and not be scared of catching this awful thing. And I think we're getting there positively. I think we are getting there. So that's the big hope. But there are all sorts of hopes. I want to see this country have a great big conversation about social care. And again, I take inspiration from Australia, who managed to do it. There are just far too many people who don't get it, don't know what it is, think it's something to do, again, with beds. with not having to sell off your family home. We have got to get past that. This, social care is something amazing. I speak as the daughter of a social worker. It's social work transforms your life, and social. Well, I'm getting into social workers now, aren't I? But I know that social workers didn't go into social work to manage budgets. They went into social work to change the world, and I think we've got to get back to that. What else? World peace, generally, that would be my final offering. I would be delighted to see world peace everywhere.
Oh, I'll have some of that. I'll have a dose of that. Thank you very much for that.
Caroline, that's been so inspiring to hear you reflect on all that, and just to hear about the journey you've been on and the incredible achievements that you and your organisation have achieved during that time, and the wider network of people who've been drawn into TLAP as a result of this magnet it's created with its kind of energy and enthusiasm for this positive change. And I wish you every success for your mission to achieve world peace.
Give it a year. Give it a year. It's in the bag. I'm on it.
But Caroline, I know we're having it's the TLAP 10th year anniversary, but I personally want to say thank you for your stewardship. I think you are, brilliant in the way you deliver your leadership style. Your leadership style is like a hostly. It's like someone hosting a party. Your leadership style is like that. You're making sure everyone in the team is well, and do they need anything? But you also make sure people who with lived experience are part and central of the conversation. But you also make sure the partnership feel that they matter as well, and that's for me. Watching you and your style is a pleasure, and I just want to say much appreciation for what you do.
Oh, Clenton, you're making me cry now. Thank you. That was just so lovely to hear. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, nothing works unless you've got great people. You're around great people, and I've been blessed to have been around great people, and it's been amazing. And you've been such a supportive chair. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for joining us on our podcast. Thank you very much for that.
My pleasure. Thank you.